And as such, you're all getting a copy of the articles of impeachment that will be presented today on Governor Bentley, and the process will start. We've never done this before. We've never tried to impeach a governor. We have had the impeachment process one time in 1915, and we're basically building off of that. So it's going to be a process, but the process starts today. As most of you can see, the articles of impeachment are essentially on what's been going on, where we're looking at this governor who has essentially betrayed the trust of the people of Alabama through actions and lies that have caused us to have some doubt about his leadership. And as such, the only course the people of Alabama have to address this issue is through the impeachment process. And so the process is going to start today. I want to first say that I'm thankful that the governor has reconciled his actions with our Lord and Jesus Christ, and I hope the best for him. But as always, our actions, while we may in a spiritual sense find our forgiveness, they still have consequences. And those consequences are this process and the possible removal of office for his actions. And with that, we'll start today. I will ask any of my colleagues if they'd like to add anything, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Well, it's a sad day that we have to initiate this process, and it is a process. This begins a lot of discussion about how this unfortunate set of circumstances has affected us all. It's not certainly not a glad time for anybody. And as this process goes forward, we will carefully weigh out the issues. This is really about the checks and balances of government that the Founding Fathers have put in place. The legislative branch of government doesn't operate exactly like the judicial branch or the executive branch. And the impeachment process, it's fortunate that it hasn't been used very often. We do have term limits in Alabama, and we don't have recall. And this is a process where, when circumstances rise to a certain level, that it can hold a constitutional officer accountable. And as this goes forward, I think it's very important that we look at this as objectively as possible. We consider the ramifications of what has happened, and also how this will affect the people of Alabama going forward. There's a crisis of confidence, and this needs to be resolved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Craig Ford, Democrat, Gadsden, Alabama. I want to say this. First of all, I want to commend Representative Ed Henry for taking the bold step of leadership and bringing forth these articles. I want to say this is not about Democrat and Republicans. This is about right and wrong. This is the only thing we know for sure today, is that nothing that the governor has said is true. This is not about the governor's personal conduct. This is about the allegations against him, including that he obstructed justice within the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency. We believe there's enough probable cause to warrant asking the state Senate to try this case and, if guilty, remove the governor from office.
Yes, I'm David Standridge. I'm a Republican representative from Blount County. I will say that this is a tough day. This is a tough day for the state of Alabama. Being a former law enforcement officer, career law enforcement officer, and also probate judge, I will say that what is important is the rule of law. It's important to me. I think it's important to the people of this state. It's known that I have asked publicly that the governor step down. I still think that that's in the best interest of the state, which I believe is the utmost importance at this time, is thinking about the people of the state and not personal issues. And, you know, with a heavy heart, I do ask that because I have supported the governor. I supported him twice in election. I supported him before a lot of people thought that he would have a shot at winning the election. So it is sad. It's hard. It's hard for me. And the county that I come from is considered probably the most conservative county in the state, and we obviously supported the governor and supported him in the last election at the highest percentage than any county in the state. But what I believe in more than anything else is that our officials need to be held to a higher standard. I believe in integrity. I believe that we can't move forward without the people's trust. I believe in this case the people have lost trust in the leadership. And so with that, I reiterate that I think it's in the best interest that the governor seriously consider stepping down. If not, I think it's our obligation in the House to move forward with our duties. Thank you.
To touch on something that David just said, Robert Bentley has said time and time again publicly how much he loves the people of Alabama. And I believe that's true. I believe he loves them. And if he does, it's time to let him go. It's time to put aside his selfishness and step down. That's what should happen. If he truly loves the people of this state, he'll step down and he'll relieve us of this pressure and this burden that he's placed on us. If not, Representative Standridge is right. We will move to impeach him. And with that, you have your documents. I know several of you probably have a few questions. Anybody first?
If I could ask you, what is the violation of the public trust that you allege that the governor has done, specifically about the finances, I imagine?
Well, so we have a slew of different examples, but it all begins with his reelection. He basically began to lose the trust of the people when he ran on a platform of no new taxes and family values. And then as soon as he's elected, he begins to campaign for a massive tax increase in the state. His wife of 50 years leaves him. There's allegations that he's had an affair, and he emphatically comes out and denies those, to the point that now when we've heard the tapes, we know what's going on, what was going on in that relationship, that it's hard to believe that that hasn't clouded his judgment, that he hasn't used his office to cover up the affair, that these allegations that are coming from the ALEA director, the former ALEA director, Spencer Collier, that those are not true, and that there may be other things out there. It calls into question everything that the governor's done, and that's what we are going to get into here. But the ball doesn't start if we do not begin it in the House. We cannot start this process if we don't introduce articles of impeachment.
But is there a specific allegation about the misuse of state funds or resources, and what is that allegation?
Well, the allegation is he has misused state funds and so to your point, we're not going to get into the specifics, because what you're looking for is criminal activity. What we're looking for from our perspective is it's about the competence of him to fill this position, to lead us in this state, to stand before our legislative body and tell us the truth. We don't believe him. To stand before an industry we're trying to recruit into this state and tell them what the state of Alabama means and how we're going to be here and we're going to be supportive of their business, it's not believable. And so one of the articles that we can impeach on is incompetence, and that's.
Can I address
Yes,
that real quick?
yes.
Just to address one other thing, I'm interested in hearing about the obstruction of justice, which I think is an important part of the impeachment process. All it is just to get it to the Senate to allow the hearings to take place. The obstruction of justice comes into the part where he allowed told the ALEA director not to cooperate with the Attorney General's office. So that's a part of the process of the obstruction of justice where I think the law has been broken. As far as in his personal conduct, I could care less about his personal conduct. That's not the first situation that's going to happen in politics and won't be the last. So we're not concerned about his personal conduct as far as in that area and as far as in breaking the law. But he did break the law when he told Spencer Collier, who was the head of ALEA, not to cooperate with the Attorney General's office. So as far as in my concern, Representative Ford's concerned, I want to see the hearings take place on him not cooperating, telling Mr. Collier not to cooperate with the Attorney General's office. So that's a big concern, and that could take place in the hearings. Thank you.
You have an Alabama House Speaker right now who's under indictment for 23 ethics charges. He's still presiding over the Alabama House.
Right, and
I mean, how do you
that case is
reconcile
in
that
play,
around
that because it is in the court system. It is in play. So this is a completely separate issue. It would be nice to stand up here and lay out, this is exactly the charge and this is what he's guilty of. But if that were the case, we're in front of that portion of the investigation. So right now the question is the AG's office and the federal entities, are they investigating? If they are, what are they investigating? What we need to do to be responsible to the people of Alabama is we initiate our own. We will start this process. We will introduce these articles of impeachment, and we will begin to dig and investigate ourselves as to what has been done, because we are the body that's responsible for this process.
But you do that when someone is under suspicion of a sex scandal, not when someone is under indictment or suspected.
Well, but what you're asking about is we're not going to impeach a House member. That's not our role. That's not the role of this.
It's not your role, but every one of you on this stage, I believe,
Right.
voted for this man while he was under indictment to be the House Speaker.
And I'll say,
And-
just so you'll know it's not partisan, to let you know, we believe in the court system. Let the court play out. We believe in the justice system. Me being minority leader, let the justice system take place. The governor's not under indictment. If there were indictments, we wouldn't have to be taking
wouldn't
place
have to
in the
be here.
impeachment procedures. So he is under indictment. There's a court procedure taking place in the middle of May. So we don't want to influence a jury selection. We don't want to influence court procedures. Let that take place. We'll know in a matter of 6 weeks what's going to happen with that process. If something happens with the governor, indictments come down before we can start the impeachment process,
Then
so be it.
that's right.
Are you
And
essentially treating this like a placeholder in the process? Because some fellow lawmakers have said they feel like this is a bit premature here. Do you look at this bill as essentially a placeholder?
I think they're different. So the governor may not ever have enough evidence to say that he committed this felony, which we don't need an impeachment proceedings if he's committed a felony. The impeachment process is for us as the representatives of the people of Alabama, because we do not have a recall measure in this state. If the people of this state believe that our governor is incompetent and incapable of filling the position, then it is up to us to impeach, and that's what this process is. It's not as cut and dry and as simple as everyone would like to make it out. One of the key tactics to preventing these types of maneuvers on an impeachment is to say, let's just wait on the courts. We should wait on the criminal investigation, and that's just a passing of the buck, because the real issue is whether or not we, as the legislature, the House primarily right now, believe that Robert Bentley is capable of filling that position and being a credible leader for the state of Alabama. And I'll tell you, my answer is no. I do not believe he is. Yes, we have the votes to pass it. Now here comes the problem is if we try to bring it out of order, if we don't follow the typical flow, it takes a 4/5 vote to suspend the rules to even get a vote on it. And I think at that point, I don't know that we have 4/5 of the vote to bring the impeachment articles. So we're going to begin working it through the process. I'm going to resist the urge of the leadership to send this to a standard committee and get it tied up in the quagmire of normal legislation. And so we will begin the process. But like I said at the beginning, we have never gone down this road before on a governor impeaching a governor. And so we're going to have to figure it out. And it's not going to happen today. I can tell you that. We're not going to try to bring it up out of order, because I do believe it would probably fail, mainly because most of my members have not seen this. When you received it, when you arrived, was the first time this has been publicly shared. And so I'm not going to ask my members to vote on something they haven't read and they don't understand to that degree.
Governor Bailey, how embarrassing is this for the state that yet another governor here has a shadow over his head?
Well, it's very embarrassing. I've received hundreds of phone calls, thousands of messages speaking to the embarrassment of what this has become, what it is, and everyone on this stage and everyone in both chambers wishes it had never happened, but it did, and now we have to deal with it.
How soon could there be a floor vote on this, and were they?
So if we waited on the normal process, probably next Tuesday to Thursday, depending.
And just a follow-up, you talked about the support calls you've gotten from your colleagues. Could you share anecdotally, did you have any calls, emails, texts from people saying, don't do this, it's not right?
Yes. So out of, let's say, 100 messages, I would say less than 2 to 3 were, do not do this. And here's the reason the ones that said not to start the articles of impeachment, it's not because they believe he's innocent or that he's capable. It's typically because they're concerned about some legislation. Like a great piece of legislation that Representative Ball has is Lenny's Law. And there's some concern that it might stop that. I've got a piece of legislation that says life begins at conception, and it would be a constitutional amendment that would go before the people, and it would save the lives of thousands of unborn children in the state of Alabama. And there is concern that this whole process that the governor has put us in will cause those types of legislation to be in jeopardy.
Governor Bailey told us yesterday at Limestone Correctional that he's not costing the state any potential employers or economic development coming in. But what you just said a couple minutes ago is, contrary to that. Was he lying to us yesterday?
I think the question is he telling the truth?
So is the leadership pushing this into a committee?
The leadership doesn't know how to deal with this. We've never done this. We're working through the process. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to resist. The natural tendency is to do what you know and what you're comfortable with, and that's not going to be the course for this legislation.
How do you want to see it handled? You don't want it to go to a committee?
Well, I'd love to just get a up or down vote on the floor of the House without having to suspend the rules, but if that's what it takes, that's what we'll do.
If I could ask whether any.
Well, let's let somebody, you've had some, if there's nobody else, then we'll,
Called the governor, what
Kim.
the governor said?
Procedurally, isn't this in the Rules Committee once you introduce it, if you're not seeking a?
Yes. So right now, as soon as we put it in today, it will park itself in rules as a resolution. And they may, look, the Rules Committee may say, we'll take this up and we'll have it on the calendar next Tuesday. If that's the case, then I'll be fine with letting it go that direction. If it's going to go to a committee just to sit and get in line behind regular legislation, I'm going to argue and contend that this is not our normal course of business and should not be treated as such. One more, and then we're going to have to go.
Has Mike Hubbard recused himself from this?
Mike Hubbard has not been involved in it at this point, so I would imagine that when the time comes, he may. He probably will.
Has Kay Ivey been contacted? Is she ready to take over?
Not by myself. I would imagine that Lieutenant Governor Ivey is making plans and working in case. I suspect that, but this is it. Final one.
Have any of you had conversations with the governor about this matter, urging him to step down once again personally? Have you had any kind of
I have not,
I have not talked to the person.
no. Thank you all for coming.
Can I get just one more question? I never really come to these things. Kevin up at News Radio 1440. Let me ask you a question. Isn't it intellectually disingenuous for the House of Representatives to be going after the governor when the guy you got who's the top wig in there is under 23-count indictment and nobody's trying to impeach him?
I would say no, because, and we answered that. It's an entirely separate situation. The impeachment process is for our constitutional officers, and the speaker is he's a representative from Auburn, and the people from Auburn chose to send him back. But the bigger question here is he is in process. He is in the court system. The process, the charges have been filed, and we're going to let that work out, and it'll show. There are no indictments in this. If the law enforcement bring indictments, then we'll step back. But if they don't, then this is the procedure, this is the mechanism that the people of Alabama have to move forward, and we're going to give them that opportunity. Thank y'all.